Picture this. You're lying in bed tonight, scrolling through social media, when suddenly you stumble across a video that makes your blood run cold. A man in Panama trembling as he points his phone camera at what looks like a chunk of space rock sitting innocuously on his kitchen table. But this isn't just any rock. Over the past 72 hours, something dark and writhing has been growing out of it. Something that pulses and breathes like it's alive. The comments section is going absolutely insane. Half the viewers are screaming hoax, the other half are genuinely terrified, and somewhere in between, a growing number of people are asking the same chilling question: what if this is real? Welcome to The Calm Scientist, where we turn the universe's most mind-bending mysteries into gentle stories perfect for science for sleep. I'm your sleepy scientist tonight, and if you're looking to fall asleep fast while exploring some of the most extraordinary events unfolding right now in 2025, you've found the perfect place. Before we dive into tonight's cosmic mystery, please hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy having your mind expanded while drifting off to dreamland. And speaking of dreams, I'd love to hear from our community. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from, what time it is there right now, and the weirdest dream you've ever had. These connections make our late-night exploration so much richer. Tonight, we're going to explore 3 interconnected phenomena that are making scientists, mystics, and internet sleuths question everything they thought they knew about our place in the cosmos. We'll journey through the story of Atlas, an interstellar visitor that's breaking every rule we thought governed natural objects in space. We'll investigate the viral Panama meteorite incident that has millions of people worldwide either laughing or losing sleep, and we'll examine how both of these events seem to align with predictions made decades ago by a blind Bulgarian woman who claimed to see the future. What makes this particularly fascinating is how these 3 seemingly separate stories are weaving together in ways that feel almost too coincidental to ignore. As we explore each thread tonight, you'll discover connections that stretch from the depths of space to the algorithms of social media, from the laboratories of Harvard University to the backyard of a frightened man in Central America, from ancient prophecies to cutting-edge astronomy. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin our journey into what might be the most significant year in human history for our understanding of whether we're truly alone in this vast universe. Our story begins not with little green men or flying saucers, but with a collection of the most sophisticated telescopes humanity has ever built, all pointing toward a single object racing through our solar system at speeds that should be impossible. On July 1st, 2025, the ATLAS survey telescope in Chile detected something that would fundamentally challenge our understanding of what natural objects can do in space. At first glance, ATLAS appeared to be just another comet, the 3rd interstellar visitor ever detected passing through our cosmic neighbourhood. The first 2, Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019, had already stretched our imaginations and taught us that the space between stars isn't as empty as we once believed. But Atlas was different from the moment of its discovery, displaying characteristics that made even the most conservative astronomers pause and reconsider their assumptions. The object was moving at roughly 60 kilometers per second, making it the fastest interstellar visitor ever recorded. To put this in perspective, imagine a bullet travelling so fast that it could circle the Earth's equator in about 11 minutes. This speed alone suggested something extraordinary about its origin story, but speed was just the beginning of Atlas's anomalies. What truly caught scientists' attention was the object's trajectory. Unlike the previous interstellar visitors that approached our solar system at steep angles, Atlas was travelling almost parallel to the plane where our planets orbit. This alignment is statistically so unlikely that some researchers calculated the odds at less than 1 in 20,000. Imagine throwing a frisbee randomly into a forest and having it thread perfectly between 2 specific trees that happen to be lined up exactly right. That's the kind of precision we're talking about. But perhaps even more intriguing was where this trajectory would take the object. Atlas wasn't just passing through randomly. Its path would bring it remarkably close to 3 of our solar system's most significant worlds: Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. The mathematical precision required for such a trajectory to occur naturally began raising eyebrows in astronomy departments around the globe. As telescopes worldwide turned their attention to this cosmic visitor, Each new observation seemed to deepen the mystery rather than resolve it. The Hubble Space Telescope captured images showing a teardrop-shaped cocoon of dust streaming not behind the object as would be expected from a typical comet, but ahead of it, toward the Sun. This was unlike anything astronomers had observed before. The James Webb Space Telescope's analysis revealed perhaps the most puzzling characteristic of all: ATLAS's chemical composition. Most comets are predominantly water ice with various rocky materials mixed in, but ATLAS showed a chemical signature that was almost the opposite of what we'd expect. The object was releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide, at ratios of 8:1 compared to water. This isn't just unusual, it's practically unheard of in natural comets. To understand how bizarre this is, imagine discovering a snowball in your backyard that's made primarily of dry ice instead of frozen water. In space, where the processes that form comets are well understood, finding an object with this composition is like finding that hypothetical dry ice snowball, but with the added mystery of not knowing where it could have possibly come from. The Very Large Telescope in Chile detected something even more perplexing. The object was emitting nickel vapor but showed virtually no signs of iron. In the cosmos, nickel and iron are like cosmic twins, forged together in the hearts of stars and found together in virtually every space, rock, asteroid, and comet ever studied. Finding nickel without iron is like finding peanut butter without peanuts, or thunder without lightning. It simply doesn't happen in nature, at least not in any natural process we currently understand. This chemical signature immediately reminded some researchers of industrial processes here on Earth. When we manufacture nickel for use in electronics, medical implants, or specialized alloys, we often separate it from iron through sophisticated industrial techniques. But ATLAS supposedly originated from another star system entirely, potentially millions or even billions of years ago, long before any technological civilization could have existed. As summer turned to fall in 2025, ATLAS continued its journey toward the inner solar system, and the anomalies kept multiplying. Ground-based telescopes began detecting unusual polarization in the light reflecting off the object. This polarization signature was unlike anything seen in natural comets, asteroids, or any other celestial body in our solar system. During September's lunar eclipse, astrophotographers captured images showing ATLAS glowing with a distinct green hue. This color change suggested the presence of diatomic carbon molecules, which can fluoresce green when energized by sunlight. However, spectroscopic analysis from just weeks earlier had found the object to be notably poor in carbon compounds. How could an object suddenly start producing carbon emissions it supposedly didn't contain? The timing of this color change raised additional questions. The green glow appeared precisely when the object was receiving increased solar radiation as it moved closer to the Sun. While this could be explained by previously frozen carbon compounds being released from beneath the surface, it could also suggest a more controlled response to solar energy, perhaps even technological systems activating as power became available. Meanwhile, Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard University was conducting his own analysis of ATLAS, applying the same rigorous scientific skepticism that had led him to question whether Oumuamua might have been an artificial object. Dr. Loeb's team focused on the statistical impossibilities surrounding ATLAS's trajectory and behavior. Their calculations showed that the probability of ATLAS's path bringing it so close to multiple planets purely by chance was vanishingly small. The object would pass within 30 million kilometers of Mars in early October, then continue on a trajectory that would bring it within 54 million kilometers of Jupiter in March of 2026. These aren't just random close approaches, they're the kind of precise celestial mechanics that would be ideal for a probe designed to study multiple worlds in our solar system. Dr. Loeb's team also noted that ATLAS would reach its closest approach to the Sun, called perihelion, at the end of October 2025. Crucially, this perihelion passage would occur when Earth is on the opposite side of the Sun, making ground-based observations impossible during this critical period. If an object wanted to conduct operations near our Sun while avoiding detection from Earth, this would be the perfect window. The research team's analysis went beyond mere trajectory calculations. They examined what they called the optimal breaking point scenario. If ATLAS were an artificial object designed to enter our solar system, it could use what's known as a reverse solar Oberth maneuver during its perihelion passage. This advanced spaceflight technique uses the sun's gravity and a spacecraft's proximity to achieve maximum efficiency from propulsion systems. Essentially, it's the cosmic equivalent of a slingshot maneuver, but in reverse, designed to slow down rather than speed up. The timing and geometry would be perfect for such a maneuver. ATLAS would approach the sun at exactly the right angle and speed to maximize the effectiveness of any braking thrust applied during perihelion. More intriguingly, this maneuver would be completely hidden from Earth-based observation due to the sun's position. Any changes in the object's trajectory or behavior during this time would only become apparent months later, when the object reappeared from behind the sun. Dr. Loeb's team calculated that a delta V, or change in velocity of just 5 to 6 kilometers per second during perihelion, could fundamentally alter ATLAS's trajectory. Instead of continuing on its hyperbolic path out of the solar system, the object could enter a bound orbit around the sun, potentially setting up long-term observations of our solar system's planets. 5 kilometers per second might sound like a lot, but it's roughly equivalent to the velocity of an intercontinental ballistic missile. For any civilization capable of interstellar travel, generating this level of thrust would be trivial. The technical challenge wouldn't be in providing the propulsion, but in designing systems robust enough to survive millions of years of interstellar travel while retaining the ability to function when needed. The Harvard team's analysis also considered the possibility of precursor probes. Given ATLAS's size, estimated at somewhere between several hundred meters and 5 kilometers across, it could easily carry smaller reconnaissance vehicles. These could be deployed during the close approaches to Mars and Jupiter, providing detailed studies of these worlds while the main craft continues on its trajectory. The idea isn't as far-fetched as it might initially sound. Human space missions regularly deploy smaller probes and landers to study celestial bodies, while the main spacecraft continues its journey. The European Space Agency's Rosetta mission, for instance, deployed the Philae lander to study Comet 67P, while the main spacecraft continued its orbital observations. An advanced interstellar probe would likely employ similar strategies, but on a much grander scale. What makes Dr. Loeb's analysis particularly compelling is its basis in established physics and engineering principles. Every aspect of the proposed artificial origin scenario relies on technologies and techniques that are logical extensions of our current understanding of spaceflight and interstellar travel. The only requirement is a technological civilization advanced enough to achieve interstellar travel, something that many scientists believe is not only possible but inevitable given the age and size of our galaxy. As October 2025 approached, the scientific community found itself in an unusual position. Multiple space agencies began redirecting their Mars-orbiting spacecraft to observe ATLAS during its close approach to the red planet. The European Space Agency's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter prepared their cameras and spectrometers for what could be humanity's closest look at an interstellar visitor. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, with its powerful HIRAS camera, was positioned to capture images with unprecedented resolution. At ATLAS's closest approach to Mars, the HIRAS camera would be able to resolve features as small as 30 kilometers across on the object. For the first time, humanity might actually be able to distinguish between the solid nucleus of the object and its surrounding dust cloud. This level of detail could potentially resolve the central question about ATLAS. If the object shows a discrete, well-defined nucleus with clear boundaries and artificial geometry, it would provide strong evidence for technological origin. Natural comets typically have irregular, potato-like shapes with fuzzy boundaries due to outgassing and dust production. An artificial object would likely display more geometric regularity and sharper edges. The timing of these observations adds another layer of intrigue to the ATLAS mystery. The close approach to Mars occurs just weeks before the object disappears behind the Sun for its perihelion passage. Whatever Mars-based observations reveal could be the last detailed look at ATLAS, before it potentially executes any maneuvers that might fundamentally alter its nature or trajectory. But ATLAS wasn't the only mysterious object capturing attention in 2025. Halfway around the world, from the sophisticated telescopes tracking our interstellar visitor A far more terrestrial drama was unfolding that would eventually connect the cosmic mystery in unexpected ways. In the small town of Pedregal, Panama, a young man known online as Kin Panama was about to become the centre of one of the year's most viral and controversial stories. On August 29th, 2025, he posted what appeared to be a routine video to TikTok, documenting what he claimed was a meteorite that had crashed in his backyard. The object in his first video looked unremarkable enough. A small, silvery, roughly spherical rock about the size of a large potato. Kin Panama explained to his initially small audience that he had heard a loud crash and found this object embedded in a small crater in his yard. He called it an interplanetary visitor and expressed his excitement at what he believed was Panama's first recorded meteorite impact. What happened over the next several days transformed this local curiosity into a global phenomenon that would eventually attract millions of views and divide the internet between believers and skeptics. Within 72 hours of his initial video, Kin Panama documented something that challenged every conventional understanding of meteorite behaviour. The object began to change. What started as a simple metallic-looking rock began developing what appeared to be organic growth. A greenish-yellow gelatinous substance emerged from cracks in the surface, resembling algae or some form of primitive plant life. But this was just the beginning of the transformation. As days passed, the substance darkened and expanded, taking on an increasingly complex and unsettling appearance. The green gel-like material transformed into a black, viscous coating that seemed to move and shift on its own. Viewers began comparing its appearance to Venom, the shape-shifting alien symbiote from Marvel Comics, leading to the nickname that would define the phenomenon. Kin Panama documented each stage of this transformation with increasing anxiety and fascination. In video after video, he showed his audience how the object continued to evolve, developing what appeared to be tentacle-like appendages that would writhe and pulse as if alive. The substance produced a strong burning odour that grew more intense over time, and Kin Panama reported that the growth seemed to accelerate when exposed to light, particularly sunlight. Perhaps most unsettling were the videos showing apparent breathing or respiratory movements. When Kin Panama placed a camera inside the safe where he stored the object, viewers could clearly see rhythmic expansions and contractions that looked disturbingly biological. The black mass appeared to be responding to its environment, becoming more active during daylight hours and settling into a more dormant state at night. The story took on additional layers of complexity when Kin Panama claimed that authorities had contacted him about collecting samples for analysis. He posted videos showing what he said were scientists or government officials coming to his home, but then claimed they had blocked his communications and disappeared without explanation. This added a conspiracy theory element to the story that only increased its viral spread. Social media platforms exploded with discussions about the Panama meteorite. Hashtags related to the story trended globally, with millions of users sharing theories, analysis, and reactions. The divide between believers and skeptics became increasingly polarized, with each side presenting evidence to support their interpretation of events. Believers pointed to the consistency of Kin Panama's documentation over many days, the apparent genuine fear and confusion in his reactions, and the complex, seemingly biological behavior of the substance. They argued that creating such an elaborate hoax would require special effects capabilities far beyond what a typical social media user would possess. Some suggested that even if it wasn't extraterrestrial, the object might represent an unknown terrestrial organism or phenomenon deserving of scientific investigation. Skeptics, however, identified numerous inconsistencies and red flags in Kin Panama's story. YouTube channel Biologia del Tercero conducted a detailed analysis pointing out problems with the alleged crash site, including what appeared to be matches visible in footage of the burning crater. They suggested that the entire incident was staged using simple materials like painted vegetables, rubber components, and hidden wires to create the illusion of movement. Other debunkers proposed that the object might be an example of Clathrus archaea, commonly known as devil's fingers or octopus stinkhorn. This fungus begins as a white egg-like structure before breaking open to reveal dark, tentacle-like growths, accompanied by a foul odour designed to attract insects for spore dispersal. While this explanation could account for some of the observed characteristics, it didn't address how such a fungus would appear, Inside what Kin Panama claimed was a meteorite. A more technical debunking emerged from Reddit user High Strangeness, who provided a detailed scientific explanation for the observed phenomena. According to this analysis, the mysterious black substance was likely polydimethylsiloxane, or PDMS, combined with small amounts of hexane. PDMS is a silicon-based polymer used in everything from medical implants to cookware, while hexane is a common organic solvent. The apparent breathing or pulsing movements were explained as a phenomenon called swelling-induced snapping motion. When certain polymer materials absorb solvents or experience temperature changes, they can exhibit rapid expansion and contraction cycles that closely mimic biological breathing. This would explain the rhythmic movements observed in Kin Panama's videos without requiring any living organism or alien biology. This technical explanation was compelling enough to convince many skeptics, but it raised its own questions. How would someone in rural Panama obtain specialized polymer compounds and have the knowledge to create such a sophisticated demonstration? If it was indeed an elaborate hoax, it represented a level of planning and technical expertise that seemed inconsistent with the apparent improvised nature of the videos. The story took another turn when several of Kin Panama's early videos disappeared from his TikTok account. Supporters argued this was evidence of suppression, or that the young man had been overwhelmed by suddenly finding himself at the center of global attention. Skeptics saw the deletions as further evidence of a hoax, suggesting that Kin Panama was removing videos that showed too clearly how the effect was created. Particularly suspicious to some observers was Kin Panama's casual handling of what he claimed was an unknown extraterrestrial organism. Throughout his videos, he touched the substance with bare hands, showed no concern about potential contamination or health risks, and made no apparent effort to involve proper scientific authorities. This behaviour seemed inconsistent with someone who genuinely believed they had discovered alien life. Yet for all the skepticism and debunking attempts, the Panama meteorite story continued to grow and evolve. New videos appeared showing the object in different states and configurations, and Kin Panama's reactions continued to seem genuine and unscripted. The phenomenon had clearly struck a nerve in the global consciousness, tapping into deep-seated fascinations with the possibility of extraterrestrial life and our desire to be among the first to witness such a discovery. The timing of the Panama meteorite incident wasn't lost on observers following the ATLAS story. Here were two separate phenomena occurring simultaneously, both involving objects supposedly from space, exhibiting highly unusual and potentially non-natural characteristics. While most scientists dismissed any connection as pure coincidence, the parallel timing added another layer of intrigue to both stories. More intriguingly, both phenomena seemed to align with predictions that had been circulating for decades, originating from an unlikely source, a blind Bulgarian woman who claimed to have foreseen the future. Baba Vanga, born Vangelia Pandava Gushterova in 1911, remains one of the most enigmatic figures in the history of prophecy and prediction. Though she died in 1996, her alleged predictions continue to influence millions of people worldwide, particularly her forecasts about extraterrestrial contact in the year 2025. Vanga lost her sight at age 12 in what has been described as a mysterious tornado incident that supposedly lifted her high into the air before dropping her back to Earth. According to her followers, this traumatic event marked the beginning of her prophetic abilities. She claimed that the blindness somehow opened her inner sight, allowing her to perceive events that had not yet occurred. Throughout her life, Vanga reportedly made thousands of predictions, many of which her followers claim have come true with startling accuracy. She's credited with predicting the 9/11 attacks, describing them as American brethren will fall after being attacked by the steel birds. She allegedly foresaw the death of Princess Diana, the Chernobyl disaster, and the election of Barack Obama as the 44th President of the United States. More relevant to our current story, Vanga reportedly made specific predictions about extraterrestrial contact occurring in 2025. According to various sources, she foresaw that humanity would finally make contact with alien life, but that this contact would occur under unusual circumstances during a major sporting event. This prediction has taken on new significance as 2025 unfolds. The year has already seen several major international sporting events, including various championships and tournaments that attract global audiences. Sports events represent some of the largest gatherings of human attention on the planet, with billions of people simultaneously focused on the same location and moment in time. If an extraterrestrial intelligence wanted to make a dramatic first impression on humanity, interrupting a major sporting event would certainly achieve maximum impact. The sporting event prediction gains additional intrigue when considered alongside the timeline of ATLAS. The interstellar object will reach its closest approach to the Sun at the end of October 2025, precisely when it will be hidden from Earth-based observation. If the object were to deploy probes or execute maneuvers during this time, any resulting contact with Earth could potentially occur in November or December, coinciding with major sporting events like the FIFA Club World Cup or various end-of-year championships. Vanga's predictions about 2025 extended beyond alien contact. She reportedly foresaw a devastating war in Europe, major breakthroughs in medical technology including lab-grown organs, the development of telepathic communication, and the discovery of new forms of energy. Some of these predictions already show signs of potential fulfillment, with ongoing conflicts in Eastern Europe, rapid advances in regenerative medicine, and breakthrough developments in brain-computer interfaces. The accuracy of Vanga's predictions remains highly debated. Skeptics point out that many of her supposed prophecies were never recorded during her lifetime and only emerged years or decades later, often after the events they allegedly predicted had already occurred. They argue that the predictions are typically vague enough to be interpreted in multiple ways, allowing believers to find connections to almost any significant event. Supporters counter that many predictions were documented by people who visited Vanga during her lifetime, and that the specificity of certain forecasts goes beyond what could be explained by lucky guessing. They point to predictions that seemed impossible when made but later proved remarkably accurate, suggesting genuine prophetic ability rather than clever interpretation of vague statements. What makes Vanga's 2025 predictions particularly compelling in the current context is how they seem to interconnect with the phenomena we're observing. The alien contact prediction aligns with the appearance of ATLAS and its anomalous characteristics. The sporting event timing coincides with the object's trajectory and the periods when it will be closest to Earth. Even the Panama meteorite incident fits into a broader pattern of unusual objects appearing from space, with characteristics that challenge conventional understanding. The convergence of these three phenomena, ATLAS, the Panama meteorite, and Vanga's predictions, creates what researchers call a synchronicity cluster. While skeptics would dismiss this as confirmation bias, or the human tendency to find patterns in random events, the timing and interconnections are striking enough to merit serious consideration. Brazilian psychic Athos Salome, often called the living Nostradamus, has made similar predictions about 2025 being a pivotal year for alien disclosure. Salome specifically mentioned that the James Webb Space Telescope would play a crucial role in humanity's discovery of extraterrestrial life, and that governments might begin declassifying UFO files in response to undeniable evidence of alien presence. The convergence of these predictions with current events creates an atmosphere of heightened anticipation and anxiety. Social media platforms are filled with discussions connecting ATLAS, the Panama meteorite, and various other anomalous events to the possibility that 2025 really is the year when humanity's cosmic isolation finally ends. As we delve deeper into the specifics of each phenomenon, the connections become even more intriguing. ATLAS's trajectory will bring it closest to Mars on October 3rd, 2025, just as major sporting events are beginning their fall seasons. The object's closest approach to Earth will occur in December, coinciding with winter sporting championships and year-end celebrations that typically draw massive global audiences. The Panama meteorite incident began in late August, precisely when ATLAS was becoming bright enough for detailed observation by ground-based telescopes. While this timing could certainly be coincidental, it represents the kind of synchronicity that makes people wonder whether larger forces might be at work. Perhaps most significantly, both phenomena share characteristics that challenge conventional scientific understanding. ATLAS displays chemical and physical properties that seem inconsistent with natural comet formation processes. The Panama meteorite, whether genuine or fabricated, exhibits behaviors that don't match known meteorite characteristics. Both objects seem to be more than they initially appeared, revealing complexity and anomalous features only after extended observation. This pattern of initial normalcy followed by increasing strangeness is consistent with how many UFO researchers believe first contact might unfold. Rather than dramatic landings on the White House lawn, initial contact might involve objects that seem natural at first, but gradually reveal their artificial nature through careful observation and analysis. This approach would allow for a gradual revelation that doesn't cause immediate panic or social disruption. The global response to both phenomena also demonstrates humanity's readiness, or lack thereof, for potential extraterrestrial contact. The Panama meteorite incident shows how quickly viral misinformation can spread, but also how hungry people are for evidence of alien life. The ATLAS story reveals the challenges scientists face in distinguishing between natural and artificial phenomena when dealing with objects from interstellar space. As October 2025 approaches, the scientific community finds itself in an unprecedented situation. Multiple space agencies are coordinating observations of ATLAS during its close approach to Mars, potentially providing the clearest view of an interstellar object ever achieved. At the same time, millions of people worldwide are following the Panama meteorite story, searching for signs of alien life in a TikTok video from Central America. The convergence of high-tech astronomy and social media speculation creates a unique moment in human history. Never before have we had the technological capability to study interstellar visitors in such detail, while simultaneously having global communication platforms that can instantly share and analyze potential evidence of extraterrestrial phenomena. The high-risk camera on NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter will capture images of ATLAS with a resolution of 30 kilometers per pixel, potentially revealing whether the object has a natural irregular shape or displays the kind of geometric regularity that might suggest artificial construction. These images could provide the most definitive evidence yet about whether we're dealing with a natural phenomenon or something more extraordinary. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency's Mars Express and ExoMars Tracegas Orbiter will conduct spectroscopic analysis of ATLAS during its flyby, potentially detecting additional chemical anomalies or even artificial emissions. If the object is technological in nature, close-range spectroscopy might reveal industrial compounds, unusual isotope ratios, or other signatures that would be impossible to explain through natural processes. The timing of these observations creates a narrow window of opportunity for resolving the ATLAS mystery. After the Mars flyby, the object will continue towards its perihelion passage behind the Sun, where it will be unobservable from Earth for several months. Whatever the Mars-based instruments detect could be our last detailed look at the object before it potentially executes maneuvers that might fundamentally alter its nature. This creates a sense of urgency that's unusual in astronomy, where phenomena typically unfold over much longer timescales. The entire ATLAS encounter, from discovery to perihelion passage, spans less than 4 months. For comparison, most major astronomical discoveries involve objects that can be observed for years or decades, allowing for gradual analysis and confirmation of findings. The compressed timeline means that scientists must make crucial determinations about ATLAS's nature based on limited observation windows and datasets. This constraint increases the possibility of misinterpretation, but also means that any conclusions reached will be based on the object's most active and revealing phases. As ATLAS approaches Mars, its behavior will become increasingly important for determining its nature. Natural comets typically become more active as they approach the Sun, releasing gas and dust as their icy components sublimate. If ATLAS is natural, we would expect to see increased outgassing, coma development, and possibly tail formation as solar heating intensifies. However, if the object is artificial, its response to increasing solar radiation might be quite different. Technological systems might activate as more power becomes available from solar panels or other energy collection systems. The object might begin transmitting signals, deploying probes, or executing course corrections that would be impossible for a natural body. The chemical anomalies already detected in ATLAS add another layer of complexity to these observations. The unusual carbon dioxide to water ratio, the presence of nickel without iron, and the polarization characteristics unlike any natural solar system object all suggest something fundamentally different about this visitor. Dr. Loeb's team has calculated that ATLAS contains enough mass to carry significant technological payloads, while maintaining the trajectory and characteristics observed. If the object is indeed an interstellar probe, it could easily accommodate scientific instruments, communication equipment, and smaller reconnaissance vehicles designed for planetary exploration. The probe deployment scenario becomes particularly intriguing when considered alongside the close approaches to multiple planets. An advanced interstellar mission would likely want to study as many worlds as possible during its passage through our solar system. ATLAS's trajectory provides ideal opportunities for detailed observations of Mars, Earth, and Jupiter, representing three very different types of planetary environments. Mars offers an example of a world that once had abundant liquid water, but has since become largely desert-like. Earth represents an active, life-bearing planet with complex atmospheric and biological systems. Jupiter provides insights into gas giant formation and evolution, along with its fascinating collection of potentially habitable moons. An alien intelligence would find all three worlds scientifically valuable for understanding planetary systems and the conditions that lead to life. The timing of Atlas's closest approaches also suggests careful planning. The Mars flyby occurs when the planet is well positioned for detailed observation, with maximum daylight exposure of the surface. The Earth approach in December coincides with winter in the northern hemisphere, but summer in the south, providing views of both seasonal extremes. The Jupiter encounter in March 2026 occurs during an optimal viewing geometry for studying the giant planet's atmospheric dynamics. While these alignments could certainly be coincidental, the precision involved is remarkable. Natural objects ejected from other star systems would typically approach our solar system from random directions and at random times, making such optimal viewing conditions highly unlikely. The fact that ATLAS provides ideal observation opportunities for multiple planets suggests either extraordinary luck or intelligent planning. The Panama meteorite incident adds another dimension to these considerations. While most scientists dismiss any connection between the viral TikTok videos and the interstellar visitor, the timing and characteristics create an interesting parallel. Both phenomena involve objects supposedly from space, exhibiting highly unusual behaviors that challenge conventional understanding. If ATLAS is indeed an artificial probe, the simultaneous appearance of anomalous space-related phenomena might not be purely coincidental. Advanced interstellar missions might deploy multiple types of reconnaissance, including smaller objects designed to study specific regions or phenomena on target planets. While this scenario verges on science fiction, it's not inconsistent with how human space missions operate when exploring new territories. The global response to both phenomena also reveals important aspects of humanity's preparedness for potential extraterrestrial contact. The Panama meteorite story demonstrates how quickly information can spread through social media networks, but also how difficult it is to separate genuine phenomena from elaborate hoaxes. The ATLAS observations show the power of international scientific cooperation, but also the challenges of interpreting data about objects unlike anything previously encountered. These parallel stories are unfolding against a backdrop of increasing government transparency about unidentified aerial phenomena. The United States military has released videos and reports acknowledging encounters with objects displaying flight characteristics beyond current human technology. Other governments have begun declassifying similar materials, creating an atmosphere where the possibility of extraterrestrial visitation is taken more seriously by mainstream institutions. This changing official stance toward UAP phenomena makes the ATLAS observations particularly significant. If the object displays undeniably artificial characteristics, it would represent the first confirmed extraterrestrial technology studied by human science. Unlike brief UAP encounters that are difficult to study in detail, ATLAS can be observed continuously with our most sophisticated instruments. The potential implications of confirming artificial origin for ATLAS extend far beyond astronomy. Such a discovery would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of our place in the universe, our assumptions about the prevalence of intelligent life, and our expectations about the future of space exploration and potential contact with other civilizations. Religious and philosophical systems would face challenges in incorporating the reality of advanced extraterrestrial intelligence. Economic systems might be disrupted by the prospect of access to technologies far beyond current human capabilities. Social structures could be strained by the knowledge that humanity is not the most advanced intelligence in our cosmic neighbourhood. But these considerations remain speculative until the crucial observations are completed. The Mars flyby of ATLAS represents a pivotal moment that could provide definitive answers about the object's nature. High-resolution imaging, detailed spectroscopic analysis, and careful monitoring of the object's behaviour during close approach will either confirm its natural origin or provide compelling evidence for something more extraordinary. The scientific method demands that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The anomalous characteristics of ATLAS certainly constitute unusual claims, but whether they rise to the level of extraordinary evidence remains to be determined. The upcoming observations will provide the data necessary for the scientific community to reach consensus about what we're actually observing. Regardless of the ultimate determination about ATLAS's nature, its passage through our solar system has already advanced our understanding of interstellar objects and the processes that govern their formation and evolution. The sophisticated observational campaign coordinated to study this visitor represents a new level of international cooperation in space science and demonstrates our growing capability to study phenomena that originate beyond our solar system. The convergence of ATLAS, the Panama meteorite incident, and the predictions attributed to Baba Vanga creates a unique moment in human history. Whether these phenomena represent genuine encounters with extraterrestrial intelligence, elaborate coincidences, or some combination of both, they reflect humanity's eternal fascination with the possibility that we are not alone in the universe. As we continue our exploration of these interconnected mysteries, we find ourselves standing at what might be a threshold moment. The observations and revelations of the coming months could mark 2025 as the year when humanity's cosmic isolation finally ended, or as another chapter in our ongoing search for evidence of life beyond Earth. The story of ATLAS continues to unfold with each passing day. As the object races toward its encounter with Mars and its mysterious perihelion passage behind the Sun, scientists around the world are preparing for observations that could reshape our understanding of what's possible in the universe. Whether those observations reveal a natural phenomenon more exotic than anything previously discovered, or evidence of intelligence from beyond our solar system, they will undoubtedly contribute to one of the most extraordinary scientific stories of our time. Meanwhile, in a small town in Panama, a young man continues to document the evolution of what he believes to be an extraterrestrial organism growing from a meteorite in his backyard. The contrast between these two stories could hardly be more stark. One involves the most sophisticated astronomical instruments humanity has ever built, operated by teams of PhD scientists and backed by international space agencies. The other features a single person with a smartphone, documenting phenomena that may or may not be real for an audience of millions on social media. Yet both stories share fundamental questions about the nature of reality, the reliability of observation, and humanity's readiness to encounter the genuinely alien. They also both demonstrate how 2025 has become a year unlike any other in our species' recorded history, a time when multiple streams of evidence seem to be converging toward the possibility that we may not be alone. As October began, Kin Panama's videos took on an increasingly urgent tone. The object in his possession had continued to evolve, developing what appeared to be more complex structures and behaviours. In some of his most recent uploads, the black substance seemed to respond directly to his presence, becoming more active when he approached and settling into dormancy when left alone. This apparent awareness added a disturbing new dimension to the phenomenon. The young man's emotional state also appeared to be deteriorating under the pressure of global attention and the stress of living with what he believed to be an alien organism. His videos showed increasing signs of sleep deprivation and anxiety. He reported that the object's odour was becoming overwhelming, that it seemed to grow more rapidly at night, and that he was afraid to leave it unattended for extended periods. Perhaps most concerning were his claims that TikTok was threatening to delete his account and remove all his content. Whether this represented genuine platform moderation, algorithmic flagging of unusual content, or persecution complex brought on by stress, it added another layer of urgency to the story. Supporters began downloading and reposting his videos, creating an archive distributed across multiple platforms and accounts. The global response to Kin Panama's story revealed fascinating cultural and psychological patterns. In regions with strong folklore traditions involving spirits, demons, or otherworldly entities, viewers often interpreted the Panama meteorite through supernatural rather than extraterrestrial lenses. Some suggested the object might be a manifestation of ancient spirits awakened by cosmic forces, or a portal opening between dimensions. Scientific communities in different countries responded with varying levels of engagement. Some dismissed the entire incident as obvious fabrication not worthy of serious attention. Others expressed frustration that, if genuine, the phenomenon wasn't being studied by proper scientific institutions with appropriate safety protocols and analytical capabilities. A few researchers called for international protocols to handle potential extraterrestrial biological discoveries, noting that current systems are inadequate for such scenarios. The incident also highlighted the challenges of scientific verification in the age of social media. Traditional scientific validation requires controlled conditions, peer review, and reproducible results. But Kin Panama's phenomenon, if genuine, was unique, uncontrolled, and unfolding in real time in someone's home. Even if scientists wanted to study it properly, the logistics of verification were complicated by geographical, political, and practical barriers. Panama's scientific institutions found themselves thrust into an uncomfortable spotlight. Local universities and research centres were contacted by international media seeking official responses to Kin Panama's claims. Most institutions declined to comment or issued carefully worded statements, noting that they had not examined the object and could not verify the claims made in social media videos. The absence of official scientific involvement became a talking point for both believers and skeptics. Believers argued that institutional reluctance to investigate demonstrated either incompetence or deliberate suppression of potentially world-changing evidence. Skeptics pointed to the same reluctance as evidence that qualified scientists recognized obvious fabrication when they saw it. This divide reflected broader tensions about authority, expertise, and truth in the digital age. Who decides what phenomena deserve scientific attention? How do we balance skeptical rigor with openness to genuinely novel discoveries? What happens when potentially important events unfold outside traditional academic and institutional frameworks? These questions became more pressing as analysis of ATLAS continued to yield increasingly puzzling results. Each new observation seemed to deepen rather than resolve the mysteries surrounding this interstellar visitor. The object's behaviour as it approached Mars would prove particularly revealing, offering insights that would either definitively classify it as a natural phenomenon or push it further into the realm of the genuinely extraordinary. On October 3, 2025, ATLAS reached its closest approach to Mars, passing within 30 million kilometres of the red planet. This distance, while vast by earthly standards, represented an extraordinarily close encounter in astronomical terms. For comparison, it was roughly equivalent to Earth's distance from Venus at closest approach, close enough for spacecraft instruments to capture detailed images and conduct sophisticated analysis. The timing of this encounter had been anticipated by astronomers for months. Multiple Mars-orbiting spacecraft had been repurposed and repositioned to maximize their observation opportunities during the flyby. The coordination required for this effort represented one of the largest international space science collaborations ever undertaken for studying a single object. The European Space Agency's Mars Express spacecraft, which had been orbiting Mars since 2003, turned its high-resolution stereo camera toward the approaching visitor. This instrument, typically used to map the Martian surface in extraordinary detail, was now tasked with capturing images of an object moving at 60 kilometers per second against the backdrop of deep space. The challenge of imaging ATLAS from Mars orbit was immense. The object was small, fast-moving, and surrounded by a diffuse cloud of dust and gas that made precise targeting difficult. The spacecraft's attitude control systems had to be programmed with extraordinary precision to track the visitor's motion while maintaining stable pointing for image capture. ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, the most recent addition to the flotilla of spacecraft studying Mars, brought its own suite of instruments to bear on the ATLAS encounter. The spacecraft's colour and stereo surface imaging system, normally used to search for evidence of past or present life on Mars, was redirected to study this visitor that might represent life from an entirely different star system. Perhaps most significantly, both spacecraft attempted spectroscopic analysis of ATLAS, using instruments designed to study the Martian atmosphere. The NOMAD spectrometer on ExoMars TGO and the SpyCam instrument on Mars Express began collecting data about the chemical composition of the gas and dust surrounding the interstellar visitor. These spectroscopic observations would prove crucial for determining ATLAS's true nature. If the object were natural, the spectra should show predictable patterns of sublimating ices and entrained dust consistent with cometary composition. If artificial, the spectra might reveal industrial compounds, unusual isotope ratios, or other signatures impossible to explain through natural processes. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter provided perhaps the most anticipated observations of the encounter. The spacecraft's high-risk camera, capable of resolving features as small as 30 centimeters on the Martian surface, was turned toward ATLAS with the hope of capturing the most detailed images ever obtained of an interstellar object. The geometry of the encounter was nearly optimal for these observations. ATLAS passed through the field of view of the Mars-orbiting spacecraft at a time when solar illumination was favourable and the object's coma was expected to be at its most active. If ever there was an opportunity to distinguish between natural and artificial characteristics, this was it. The first images transmitted back to Earth exceeded all expectations in terms of clarity and detail. For the first time, astronomers could see ATLAS not as a point of light or a fuzzy smudge, but as a discrete object with visible structure and form. What they saw challenged every assumption about what interstellar visitors should look like. Instead of the irregular, potato-like shape typical of natural comets and asteroids, ATLAS appeared remarkably geometric in its structure. The highest resolution images revealed what appeared to be faceted surfaces, sharp edges, and a degree of symmetry that was difficult to explain through natural formation processes. The object looked less like a space rock and more like a piece of engineered hardware tumbling through the void. Even more intriguingly, the dust and gas cloud surrounding ATLAS showed structure and organization that seemed inconsistent with random outgassing from a natural body. Rather than the chaotic, roughly spherical coma typical of comets, the material around ATLAS appeared to be organized into discrete streams and jets with clear directional preferences. The spectroscopic data proved even more puzzling. The NOMAD and SpyCam instruments detected not only the previously observed carbon dioxide and nickel emissions, but also signatures of compounds that had no business existing in a natural comet. The spectra showed evidence of complex hydrocarbons, metallic compounds typically associated with industrial processes, and isotope ratios that differed significantly from solar system norms. Most remarkably, some of the spectral lines detected didn't correspond to any known natural compounds at all. The instruments were detecting emissions from materials that appeared to be artificial in origin, perhaps representing alloys or composite materials unknown to terrestrial science, but consistent with advanced manufacturing techniques. The Mars-based observations also revealed temporal variations in ATLAS's emissions that suggested active processes rather than passive sublimation. The intensity and composition of the outgassing changed over time, scales of hours and days in patterns that seemed too regular and organized to represent natural phenomena. Dr. Loeb's team analysed these variations and found periodic signatures that could represent technological systems cycling on and off, perhaps as the object rotated and different components were exposed to solar radiation. The periodicity matched the object's estimated rotation rate, suggesting that specific regions or components were activating as they faced the sun. These findings sent shockwaves through the astronomical community. While individual anomalies could potentially be explained through exotic but natural processes, the combination of geometric structure, organized outgassing, artificial compounds, and temporal variations painted a picture that was increasingly difficult to reconcile with natural origin. The implications were staggering. If ATLAS was indeed artificial, it represented humanity's first confirmed encounter with extraterrestrial technology. The object would be physical proof that intelligent life exists elsewhere in the galaxy and has achieved interstellar travel capabilities. Such a discovery would rank among the most significant in human history, comparable to the development of agriculture, the Industrial Revolution, or the discovery of DNA. But the scientific community approached these extraordinary claims with appropriate caution. The observations, while highly suggestive, still fell short of definitive proof. Exotic natural processes, previously unknown physical phenomena, or instrumental artifacts could potentially explain some of the anomalous characteristics. Several research groups began developing alternative explanations for Atlas's properties. Some proposed that the object might represent a new class of interstellar body formed under conditions radically different from those in our solar system. Others suggested that prolonged exposure to interstellar radiation and magnetic fields might create chemical and physical signatures that could mimic technological characteristics. The geometric structure observed in the high-resolution images sparked particular debate. While the faceted surfaces and sharp edges seemed artificial, some researchers noted that certain natural crystal formation processes could produce similar structures under the right conditions. The challenge was determining whether such conditions could exist in the interstellar environment, and whether they could produce objects as large as Atlas. The organised outgassing patterns also attracted alternative explanations. Some researchers proposed that rotating bodies with heterogeneous surface compositions could produce non-random emission patterns as different regions experienced solar heating. Others suggested that magnetic fields or electrostatic effects might channel outgassing in specific directions. However, each alternative explanation faced significant challenges when confronted with the full range of observed anomalies. Natural processes that could explain the geometric structure struggled to account for the artificial chemical signatures. Phenomena that might produce organised outgassing couldn't easily explain the isotopic anomalies. No single natural mechanism seemed capable of producing all the observed characteristics simultaneously. As the scientific debate intensified, Atlas continued its journey toward the inner solar system. The Mars encounter had provided unprecedented insights, but it also raised more questions than it answered. The object was now racing toward its perihelion passage behind the Sun, where it would be unobservable from Earth for several crucial months. This period of invisibility took on new significance in light of the Mars observations. If Atlas was indeed artificial, the perihelion passage would provide the perfect opportunity for major course corrections or system activations while hidden from human observation. The object could emerge from behind the Sun on a fundamentally different trajectory, or with radically altered characteristics. Dr. Loeb's team had calculated that relatively modest velocity changes during perihelion could transform Atlas from a hyperbolic visitor passing through our solar system into a permanent resident in solar orbit. The energy required for such a maneuver was well within the capabilities of any civilization advanced enough to achieve interstellar travel. The scenario was both thrilling and terrifying. If Atlas executed such a maneuver, it would confirm artificial origin beyond any reasonable doubt. But it would also mean that an alien intelligence had established a permanent presence in our solar system, with unknown intentions and capabilities far exceeding our own. Meanwhile, the Panama meteorite story continued to evolve in directions that seemed to parallel the Atlas mystery. As October progressed, Kin Panama's videos showed the object in his possession undergoing what appeared to be rapid morphological changes. The black substance had developed more complex three-dimensional structures, resembling organic forms but following patterns that seemed too organised and purposeful to be entirely biological. New analysis of the Panama phenomenon emerged from unexpected sources. A consortium of materials scientists and biochemists, intrigued despite their skepticism, began collaborative analysis of the available video evidence. Using advanced image processing and temporal analysis techniques, they sought to determine whether the observed changes could be explained through known chemical or biological processes. Their preliminary findings were inconclusive but intriguing. While they identified several potential mundane explanations for the observed phenomena, none fully accounted for all the documented changes. The temporal patterns of growth and morphological development showed characteristics that were difficult to explain through simple chemical reactions or biological processes. More concerning were reports from other social media users claiming similar discoveries. Videos began appearing from various locations around the world, showing objects that bore resemblance to Kin Panama's meteorite. These ranged from obviously fake attempts to capitalize on the viral phenomenon to more sophisticated documentation that suggested either coordinated hoaxing or genuine manifestation of similar phenomena in multiple locations. The emergence of copycat incidents complicated the narrative considerably. If Kin Panama's original videos were genuine, the appearance of similar objects elsewhere might indicate a broader phenomenon, rather than an isolated incident. If the original was a hoax, the copies might represent independent attempts at viral fame, or evidence of the original technique spreading to other creators. Distinguishing between these possibilities became increasingly difficult as the number of claimed incidents grew. Social media algorithms, designed to promote engaging content, amplified videos showing unusual or anomalous phenomena, regardless of their authenticity. This created an information environment where genuine discoveries, sophisticated hoaxes, and amateur mistakes all received similar levels of attention and credibility. The challenge of verification became a central theme in discussions about both the Panama meteorite and ATLAS. Traditional scientific institutions, designed for careful, methodical investigation of controlled phenomena, struggled to adapt to the rapid pace and viral nature of social media discoveries. By the time institutional responses were formulated, public opinion had already crystallized around competing interpretations of the evidence. This disconnect between scientific caution and public enthusiasm created opportunities for alternative voices to shape the narrative. Influencers, conspiracy theorists, and self-proclaimed experts filled the vacuum left by institutional reluctance to engage with unverified claims. Their interpretations, while often lacking scientific rigor, resonated with audiences hungry for explanations and meaning. Dr. Loeb found himself in the unusual position of being one of the few mainstream scientists willing to seriously consider the possibility that both phenomena might represent genuine encounters with extraterrestrial intelligence. His reputation and institutional affiliation provided credibility to what might otherwise be dismissed as fringe speculation, but also subjected him to criticism from colleagues who viewed such openness as premature or scientifically inappropriate. The controversy surrounding Dr. Loeb's positions highlighted broader tensions within the scientific community about how to approach potentially paradigm-shifting discoveries. Conservative voices argued for maintaining high evidentiary standards and avoiding speculation that might mislead the public or damage scientific credibility. Progressive voices countered that excessive caution might cause science to miss genuinely revolutionary discoveries or allow non-scientific actors to control important narratives. These methodological debates took on new urgency as ATLAS approached its perihelion passage. Whatever the object did during its time behind the Sun would likely provide definitive answers about its nature. If it emerged unchanged, following predictable orbital mechanics, the case for natural origin would be strengthened significantly. If it appeared on a new trajectory or exhibited new characteristics, the case for artificial origin would become compelling. The period of waiting created an unusual atmosphere of anticipation in both scientific and popular culture communities. Astronomical forums buzzed with speculation about what ATLAS might do during perihelion. Social media platforms saw increased discussion of extraterrestrial contact scenarios and their implications for human civilization. Even mainstream media began treating the story with increasing seriousness, recognizing that the outcome could have profound implications regardless of which interpretation proved correct. Baba Vanga's predictions added another layer of complexity to this atmosphere of expectation. Her forecast of alien contact during a major sporting event in 2025 meant that every significant sports competition became a potential moment of first contact. Viewers watched not just for athletic achievement, but for signs of extraterrestrial intervention or revelation. The psychological impact of this expectation was significant. Millions of people around the world found themselves scanning skies during outdoor sporting events, analysing unusual weather patterns or atmospheric phenomena for signs of alien presence. Television broadcasts of major competitions experienced unusual spikes in viewership from audiences hoping to witness history in the making. This heightened state of anticipation created a feedback loop where unusual but perfectly natural phenomena were increasingly interpreted through the lens of potential extraterrestrial contact. Unusual cloud formations, atmospheric optical effects, or technical glitches in broadcast equipment all became potential evidence of alien presence for audiences primed to expect such manifestations. The convergence of multiple prediction timeframes added to this effect. ATLAS would complete its perihelion passage in late October, potentially emerging with new characteristics in November or December. Major sporting events throughout the fall and winter provided opportunities for the kind of public contact Vanga had predicted. The Panama meteorite phenomenon continued to evolve, potentially building towards some climactic revelation or transformation. This constellation of potentially significant events created what psychologists recognize as a period of heightened pattern recognition and meaning-making. Human brains, evolved to detect threats and opportunities in complex environments, naturally seek connections and significance in coincidental events. The more unusual phenomena people encountered, the more likely they became to perceive grand unified explanations involving extraterrestrial intelligence. The effect was amplified by social media algorithms designed to maximize engagement by promoting content that provoked strong emotional responses. Videos and posts suggesting alien contact naturally generated more clicks, shares, and comments than mundane explanations, leading to their preferential distribution and increased visibility. This created an information ecosystem biased toward extraordinary interpretations, regardless of their factual basis. Within this environment, the story of Atlas, the Panama meteorite, and Baba Vanga's predictions took on lives of their own. Each development, whether confirming or challenging extraterrestrial interpretations, was analysed and reanalyzed by armies of amateur investigators armed with powerful analytical tools and unlimited time to explore every detail and connection. The democratization of analysis tools and information access meant that discoveries once limited to professional scientists could now be explored by anyone with internet access and sufficient motivation. High-resolution images from Mars missions were available for download and analysis within hours of their release. Spectroscopic data could be processed using freely available software. Academic papers were increasingly published in open-access formats, making cutting-edge research available to global audiences. This democratization had both positive and negative effects. On the positive side, it enabled rapid crowdsourced analysis that could identify patterns or anomalies that professional researchers might miss. Thousands of amateur astronomers, data analysts, and curious individuals could collectively process more information more quickly than small professional research teams. On the negative side, it enabled the rapid spread of misinterpretations, errors, and deliberate misinformation. Without the quality control mechanisms built into professional scientific research, false patterns and incorrect conclusions could gain widespread acceptance before expert correction was possible. The speed of viral information spread often outpaced the careful verification processes that ensure scientific reliability. The Atlas story exemplified both aspects of this phenomenon. Amateur analysts made genuine contributions to understanding the object's characteristics, identifying anomalies and patterns that merited professional attention. Simultaneously, misinterpretations and overstatements spread rapidly through social networks, creating false impressions about the strength of evidence for extraordinary claims. Professional scientists found themselves in the difficult position of trying to maintain rigorous standards while engaging with a public increasingly impatient for definitive answers. The traditional scientific process of hypothesis formation, data collection, analysis, peer review, and cautious conclusion required timeframes that seemed glacial compared to the instant gratification expectations of digital culture. This tension became particularly acute as October progressed, and Atlas approached its crucial perihelion passage. The scientific community needed months or years to properly analyze the Mars encounter data and reach consensus about its implications. The public wanted answers immediately and was willing to accept preliminary interpretations as definitive conclusions if official sources seemed reluctant to provide clear statements. Into this gap stepped various unofficial interpreters, ranging from credible science communicators to conspiracy theorists with their own agendas. The absence of definitive official statements created opportunities for alternative narratives to flourish, some based on genuine analysis of available evidence, others reflecting pre-existing beliefs about extraterrestrial visitation or government cover-ups. The Panama meteorite story experienced similar dynamics. The absence of official scientific investigation meant that interpretation was left to social media analysts, debunkers, and believers working with limited information and no direct access to the supposed phenomenon. Each group developed increasingly sophisticated arguments for their preferred interpretation, creating an elaborate edifice of analysis built on a foundation that might or might not represent genuine mystery. As both stories approached potential climax moments, the stakes for correct interpretation continued to rise. If ATLAS proved to be artificial, or if the Panama meteorite represented genuine extraterrestrial biology, the implications would extend far beyond astronomy or social media curiosity. Such discoveries would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its place in the universe and its expectations for the future. The possibility of such revelations created a unique form of collective suspense. Humanity found itself waiting for answers to questions that had defined much of its intellectual and spiritual development throughout recorded history. Are we alone in the universe? Is Earth unique in harboring life and intelligence? What would contact with extraterrestrial civilization mean for human society, culture, and identity? These eternal questions took on immediate relevance as October 2025 progressed toward its climactic moments. ATLAS raced toward its hidden rendezvous with the Sun, carrying with it the potential to answer definitively whether artificial objects traverse the space between stars. The Panama meteorite continued its mysterious evolution, potentially representing either elaborate human creativity or genuine encounter with alien biology. Baba Vanga's predictions provided a countdown framework within which these phenomena might reach their ultimate significance. The convergence of these elements created a narrative tension rarely experienced in real-world events. Unlike fiction, where authors control pacing and revelation, the unfolding of actual phenomena followed natural timelines that built suspense through genuine uncertainty about outcomes. No one, regardless of their expertise or analysis, could definitively predict what would happen when ATLAS emerged from behind the Sun, or how the Panama meteorite story would ultimately resolve. This uncertainty was both exciting and unsettling. The possibility of paradigm-shifting revelation competed with the likelihood of mundane explanation, creating an emotional state that oscillated between anticipation and skepticism. The human desire for significance and meaning pulled against evolved caution about extraordinary claims, generating internal conflict that reflected the broader cultural tensions surrounding these phenomena. As we moved deeper into October, these tensions would only intensify. The approaching perihelion passage of ATLAS promised either confirmation of the most extraordinary discovery in human history or resolution of an elaborate case of mistaken identity. The continuing evolution of the Panama meteorite threatened either to expose an elaborate hoax or to provide undeniable evidence of extraterrestrial biology. Baba Vanga's predictions offered either prophetic validation or another chapter in humanity's long history of failed prophecy. The stakes could hardly be higher, and the resolution, whatever form it took, would provide lessons about evidence, interpretation, and the challenges of distinguishing between the genuinely extraordinary and the merely unusual in an age of information abundance and global connectivity. The weight of these approaching revelations began to manifest in unexpected ways throughout human society during the middle weeks of October. Search trends showed massive spikes in queries about interstellar travel, extraterrestrial biology, and ancient prophecies. Bookstores reported unprecedented demand for titles about astronomy, UFO phenomena, and mysticism. Even academic institutions noticed increased enrollment in courses related to astrobiology, planetary science, and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. This surge of public interest created ripple effects throughout educational and research institutions. Universities that had previously struggled to fill astronomy courses suddenly found themselves with waiting lists. Planetariums experienced record attendance as people sought to understand the cosmic context within which these mysterious events were unfolding. Science museums hastily assembled exhibits about interstellar objects and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. The economic implications were equally striking. Companies involved in space technology saw their stock prices fluctuate wildly based on speculation about potential technological revelations from ATLAS. defense contractors experienced increased interest from government agencies suddenly concerned about the implications of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence. Even entertainment companies began fast-tracking projects related to first contact scenarios, hoping to capitalize on the heightened public interest. Religious communities also grappled with the theological implications of potential extraterrestrial contact. Progressive denominations generally embraced the possibility as evidence of divine creativity expressed throughout the universe. Conservative groups struggled with doctrines that had assumed human uniqueness in creation. Some fundamentalist communities interpreted the phenomena as signs of approaching end times, fulfilling prophecies about strange signs in the heavens. The Vatican, with its long history of engagement with scientific discovery, issued carefully worded statements acknowledging that the discovery of extraterrestrial life would not necessarily conflict with Catholic theology. Other major religious organizations followed similar approaches, seeking to position themselves thoughtfully rather than reactively, in case extraordinary revelations did emerge. Islamic scholars noted passages in the Quran that could be interpreted as acknowledging life throughout the universe, while Buddhist and Hindu traditions generally found extraterrestrial intelligence consistent with their concepts of multiple worlds and forms of consciousness. Indigenous spiritual traditions, with their emphasis on connections between earthly and cosmic phenomena, often proved most adaptable to the possibility of star-born visitors. This religious and philosophical ferment added another layer to the social dynamics surrounding ATLAS and the Panama meteorite. Believers in various traditions found themselves reconsidering fundamental assumptions about humanity's place in creation. Secular humanists grappled with questions about whether human values and ethics would remain relevant in a universe populated by potentially superior intelligences. The psychological impact on individuals was equally profound. Mental health professionals reported increased cases of both anxiety and euphoria related to possible extraterrestrial contact. Some people experienced existential crisis as they contemplated humanity's potential insignificance in a larger cosmic community. Others felt profound excitement at the possibility of expanded knowledge and contact with advanced civilizations. Support groups emerged online for people struggling with what psychologists termed contact anxiety, the fear and uncertainty associated with potential first contact scenarios. These communities provided spaces for individuals to process their emotions and fears about possible encounters with extraterrestrial intelligence. Conversely, other groups formed around contact enthusiasm, celebrating the potential for expanded human understanding and cosmic community. The generation gap in responses to these phenomena proved particularly interesting. Younger people, having grown up with science fiction media and digital connectivity, generally adapted more easily to the possibility of extraterrestrial contact. Older generations, whose worldviews were formed during periods of greater isolation and human-centered thinking, often struggled more with the implications. Children displayed perhaps the most fascinating responses. Many seemed to accept the possibility of alien visitors with remarkable equanimity, incorporating space travelers into their play and imagination as easily as they had absorbed other fantastical elements from movies and books. This generational difference suggested that humanity's adaptation to potential extraterrestrial contact might occur more rapidly than many experts had predicted. Educational systems found themselves unprepared for the sudden surge in student questions about space, alien life, and the cosmos. Teachers who had never expected to address such topics in their careers suddenly found themselves researching interstellar travel and astrobiological possibilities to satisfy curious students. Science curricula were hastily updated to include more content about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and the characteristics of objects like ATLAS. The media landscape experienced equally dramatic transformations. News organizations that had initially treated the ATLAS story as a curiosity found themselves dedicating significant resources to coverage as public interest intensified. Science journalists became some of the most sought-after reporters, their expertise suddenly crucial for interpreting complex astronomical data and theoretical scenarios. Documentary filmmakers rushed to capture the unfolding story, recognizing that they might be witnessing historically significant events. Multiple production companies began following the key figures in both the ATLAS investigation and the Panama meteorite phenomenon, hoping to create definitive records of whatever revelations emerged. Social media platforms struggled to balance their algorithms between promoting engaging content and preventing the spread of misinformation. The extraordinary nature of the claims surrounding both phenomena made it difficult to apply standard fact-checking procedures. How do you fact-check claims about the first confirmed extraterrestrial visitors when no previous examples exist for comparison? This challenge was particularly acute regarding the Panama meteorite story. Traditional fact-checking relied on expert consensus, but experts were divided about whether the phenomenon deserved serious investigation or dismissal as obvious fabrication. The absence of direct scientific examination meant that verification remained impossible, leaving social media companies to make editorial decisions about content they couldn't definitively evaluate. The viral nature of both stories also created new challenges for information quality. Details that were speculative or preliminary in scientific discussions became reported as facts when transmitted through social media networks. Nuanced analyses were reduced to simple claims that could be easily shared and understood by general audiences. This compression of complex information often distorted its meaning, creating false impressions about the strength of evidence for various interpretations. Meanwhile, Kinpanama's situation in Panama was becoming increasingly complex and concerning. His latest videos showed a young man under tremendous stress, dealing with global attention he'd never sought and phenomena he didn't understand. The object in his possession had continued to evolve, developing characteristics that seemed to transcend simple biological or chemical explanation. Recent footage showed the black substance exhibiting what appeared to be deliberate responses to external stimuli. When Kinpanama spoke to it, the material would pulse and shift as if reacting to his voice. When exposed to different types of light, it would change colour and texture in ways that seemed purposeful rather than reactive. Most disturbing were instances where the substance appeared to move independently of any external influence, reshaping itself into new configurations without obvious cause. These developments pushed the phenomenon into territory that even supportive observers found difficult to accept. The progression from supposedly meteoric rock to responsive, apparently intelligent organism challenged even the most open-minded interpretations. Either Kinpanama was orchestrating an increasingly sophisticated hoax, or he was documenting something that transcended current scientific understanding of biology, chemistry, and physics. International attention to Kinpanama's story had attracted offers of assistance and investigation from various sources. Several universities expressed interest in studying the phenomenon under controlled conditions. Documentary filmmakers offered to fund proper scientific analysis in exchange for exclusive access to the story. Even government agencies from multiple countries had reportedly made contact, though Kinpanama claimed that official interest quickly disappeared after initial inquiries. The pattern of official disengagement became a significant element of the story for believers in extraterrestrial explanations. They interpreted government reluctance to investigate as evidence of cover-up or suppression. Skeptics saw the same disengagement as confirmation that qualified experts recognized obvious fabrication and didn't want to waste resources on investigation. This interpretive divide reflected broader questions about institutional responsibility and scientific obligation. Did the scientific community have a duty to investigate every claimed anomalous phenomenon, regardless of its apparent credibility? How should resources be allocated between investigating established research questions and pursuing speculative claims that might represent paradigm-shifting discoveries? The ATLAS investigation faced similar questions on a much larger scale. The Mars flyby observations had provided unprecedented data about an interstellar object, but interpreting that data required significant investment of time and expertise from researchers whose primary responsibilities lay elsewhere. Academic careers were built on steady progress within established fields, not on risky investigations of potentially artificial objects from outer space. Yet the stakes of the ATLAS investigation were too high to ignore. If the object proved to be artificial, the implications would extend far beyond astronomy into virtually every field of human knowledge and activity. The potential technological revelations alone could accelerate human scientific and technological development by decades or centuries. Dr. Loeb's team continued their analysis of the Mars flyby data, but their work was complicated by the extraordinary nature of their findings. Peer review processes were designed to evaluate claims within established scientific frameworks, but ATLAS seemed to challenge those frameworks at a fundamental level. How do you peer review a claim about the first confirmed extraterrestrial technology when no reviewers have experience with such phenomena? The team's approach was methodical and conservative despite the revolutionary implications of their findings. They systematically eliminated potential mundane explanations for each anomalous characteristic observed during the Mars flyby. This process was time-consuming and technically demanding, requiring expertise in multiple fields from materials science to astrobiology. The preliminary analysis confirmed the geometric structure observed in the highest resolution images. Computer modelling of natural fragmentation and erosion processes could not reproduce the regular faceting and sharp edges visible on ATLAS. The object's shape was more consistent with designed artifacts than with natural formation through cosmic processes. The organised outgassing patterns also proved difficult to explain through natural mechanisms. While rotating heterogeneous bodies could produce some degree of directionality in emissions, the level of organisation and apparent coordination observed in ATLAS exceeded what could be achieved through passive geological processes. The patterns suggested active management of mass loss rather than a random sublimation of surface materials. Perhaps most compelling were the spectroscopic signatures that continue to defy natural explanation. The presence of industrial compounds, unusual isotope ratios, and previously unknown materials created a chemical profile that seemed inconsistent with formation in any known stellar environment. Some of the detected compounds appeared to be synthetic in origin, representing compositions that required deliberate manufacturing rather than natural nucleosynthesis or accretion processes. The temporal variations in emissions provided additional evidence of artificial origin. Natural outgassing typically follows predictable patterns based on solar heating, rotation, and surface composition. ATLAS showed emission patterns that correlated with its rotation, but in ways that suggested discrete sources activating and deactivating rather than passive response to thermal cycling. Dr. Loeb's team carefully documented each anomaly while acknowledging the extraordinary nature of their findings. They recognized that claims about extraterrestrial technology would face intense scrutiny and required evidence that exceeded normal scientific standards. Every aspect of their analysis was designed to withstand the most rigorous peer review and skeptical examination. Yet the accumulation of evidence was becoming difficult to dismiss through appeals to unknown natural processes. Each new anomaly could potentially be explained individually through exotic but natural mechanisms, but the combination of all observed characteristics pushed the probability of natural origin to vanishingly small levels. The team's statistical analysis suggested that the likelihood of all observed anomalies occurring simultaneously in a natural object was less than 1 in several million. While low probability events certainly occur in the universe, the extreme improbability combined with the consistency of all characteristics with artificial origin created a compelling case for non-natural explanation. This statistical approach provided a framework for moving beyond simple speculation towards scientifically rigorous evaluation of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Rather than requiring absolute proof of artificial origin, which might be impossible to obtain without direct examination of ATLAS, the analysis focused on comparative probability. Was natural origin or artificial origin more consistent with the full range of observed characteristics? The answer emerging from multiple independent analyses increasingly favoured artificial origin. While absolute certainty remained elusive, the preponderance of evidence was shifting decisively toward the conclusion that ATLAS represented technology rather than natural phenomena. This shift in scientific opinion occurred gradually and cautiously, but its implications were being recognized throughout the research community. If ATLAS was indeed artificial, it would represent confirmation of intelligent life elsewhere in the galaxy, and evidence of technological capabilities far exceeding human achievements. Such a discovery would rank among the most significant in the history of science. The timing of these revelations added urgency to the analysis. ATLAS was rapidly approaching its perihelion passage behind the Sun, where it would be unobservable from Earth for several months. Whatever the object did during this period of invisibility would likely provide definitive resolution of questions about its nature and intentions. Dr. Loeb's team had calculated the precise timing of the perihelion passage and the periods of visibility afterward. If ATLAS emerged from behind the Sun unchanged, following predictable orbital mechanics, it would strengthen arguments for natural origin despite the anomalous characteristics observed during the Mars flyby. If the object appeared on a modified trajectory or exhibited new characteristics, it would provide compelling confirmation of artificial origin and active capability. The scenario of an active maneuver during perihelion represented both the most exciting and most concerning possibility. Confirmation of artificial origin would answer humanity's eternal question about cosmic isolation, but it would also establish the presence of potentially superior intelligence within our solar system. The intentions and capabilities of such intelligence remained completely unknown, creating both tremendous opportunity and existential risk. These considerations extended the significance of ATLAS beyond pure scientific discovery into questions of planetary security and species survival. If the object represented advanced reconnaissance for a larger presence, humanity might need to prepare for contact scenarios ranging from benevolent scientific exchange to hostile invasion. The absence of information about alien intentions made it impossible to predict which scenario might unfold. Government agencies around the world were quietly developing contingency plans for various contact scenarios, though most of this planning remained classified to avoid public panic. Defense departments updated threat assessments to include potential extraterrestrial technology. Space agencies considered how existing capabilities might be adapted for communication or defense purposes. Intelligence services monitored public reactions to gauge social stability in case of confirmed contact. These preparations occurred largely outside public awareness, but their existence reflected the seriousness with which official institutions were beginning to regard the ATLAS phenomenon. The dismissive skepticism that had initially characterized government responses was being replaced by cautious but serious consideration of the extraordinary possibilities. The shift in official attitudes was also influenced by the broader context of increased UAP acknowledgement and investigation. Military and intelligence agencies had already confirmed encounters with objects displaying flight characteristics beyond current human technology. ATLAS represented a potential explanation for some of these phenomena, suggesting that Earth had been under observation or investigation by extraterrestrial intelligence for longer than previously recognized. This historical perspective added retrospective significance to various unexplained aerial phenomena reported over previous decades. If ATLAS proved to be artificial, it might represent not first contact, but rather the first definitively confirmed example of contact that had been ongoing for extended periods. Such a revelation would require comprehensive re-evaluation of UFO reports, unexplained technological advances, and various anomalous events that had been dismissed as natural phenomena or measurement errors. The implications extended into archaeological and historical research as well. Ancient accounts of strange objects in the sky, unusual visitors, or impossible technological feats might require re-examination in light of confirmed extraterrestrial presence. Religious texts describing encounters with non-human intelligences could take on new significance as potentially accurate historical records, rather than purely spiritual metaphors. These expanding implications created a cascade of research questions and investigative priorities that extended far beyond the original astronomical observations of ATLAS. If the object proved to be artificial, virtually every field of human knowledge would need to incorporate the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence and potentially ongoing contact or observation. Educational institutions began preparing for this possibility by developing curricula that could rapidly integrate extraterrestrial perspectives into existing academic disciplines. Anthropologists considered how human culture might change in response to confirmed contact with superior intelligence. Economists analysed potential impacts of access to advanced technologies. Political scientists explored scenarios for international cooperation or competition in response to external contact. These preparations occurred against a backdrop of heightened public anticipation as ATLAS approached its crucial perihelion passage. The scientific community's growing acknowledgement that artificial origin was increasingly plausible had begun to permeate popular awareness, creating an atmosphere of expectation and anxiety about potential revelations. Social media platforms experienced unprecedented traffic as people shared theories, fears, and hopes about possible contact scenarios. The conversations ranged from technical discussions of propulsion physics to philosophical explorations of consciousness and intelligence. Many people reported changes in their daily priorities and long-term planning as they contemplated the possibility that humanity might soon join a larger cosmic community. The psychological impact of prolonged uncertainty was becoming apparent in various social indicators. Mental health services reported increased demand for counselling related to existential anxiety and cosmic perspectives. Religious institutions experienced both increased attendance from people seeking meaning and guidance, and decreased participation from those whose faith had been challenged by potential extraterrestrial realities. Educational systems struggled with student questions that had no definitive answers. Teachers found themselves explaining not just the characteristics of ATLAS, but the nature of scientific uncertainty and the process of discovery when dealing with potentially paradigm-changing phenomena. Many students displayed remarkable adaptability to the possibility of extraterrestrial contact, integrating such concepts into their worldviews more easily than many adults. The generational differences in response to potential contact reflected broader patterns of technological and social adaptation. People who had grown up with rapid technological change and global connectivity often found extraterrestrial intelligence less conceptually challenging than those whose formative experiences occurred in more isolated and stable environments. These social dynamics would become crucial factors in determining humanity's response to whatever revelations emerged from Atlas's perihelion passage. The object's behaviour during its time behind the Sun would provide answers to questions that had shaped human civilization for millennia, but the significance of those answers would depend as much on social and psychological readiness as on their scientific content. As October progressed toward its climactic weeks, the convergence of astronomical observation, viral social media phenomena, and ancient prophecy created a unique moment in human history. Never before had such a combination of high-technology investigation, global communication capability, and popular engagement focused simultaneously on the possibility of extraterrestrial contact. The ATLAS investigation represented the culmination of centuries of scientific development and international cooperation. The most sophisticated instruments ever created were focused on answering humanity's most fundamental questions about cosmic isolation. The Panama meteorite phenomenon demonstrated how digital communication could transform local curiosities into global phenomena, creating new forms of evidence evaluation and community engagement. Baba Vanga's predictions provided a framework for understanding these events as potentially fulfilling ancient patterns of prophecy and revelation. Whether these phenomena would ultimately prove connected or coincidental, they had already transformed human consciousness about our place in the universe. The possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence had moved from speculative fiction to serious scientific investigation. The potential for contact had evolved from distant hypothetical to immediate possibility requiring practical preparation and consideration. The approaching perihelion passage of ATLAS would provide resolution to questions that had gained unprecedented urgency and relevance. Whatever emerged from behind the Sun in December would either confirm the most extraordinary discovery in human history or resolve one of the most compelling cases of mistaken identity ever documented by scientific observation. In either case, the journey to that resolution had already changed humanity's relationship with the cosmos and its understanding of the possibilities that might exist among the stars. The universe had become a more mysterious and potentially populated place, regardless of what ATLAS ultimately proved to be. The questions raised by its passage through our solar system would continue to influence human thinking and exploration for generations to come. The transformation of human consciousness about extraterrestrial possibilities was perhaps the most significant outcome of 2025's unprecedented convergence of phenomena, predictions, and investigations. Win or lose in terms of confirmed contact, humanity had crossed a threshold of cosmic awareness that would permanently alter its relationship with the universe and its expectations for the future of intelligence and civilization among the stars. The week leading up to Atlas's disappearance behind the Sun marked a period of extraordinary intensity in both scientific observation and global cultural anticipation. ground-based telescopes around the world conducted continuous monitoring of the interstellar visitor as it approached the point where solar proximity would make further observation impossible. Each night brought new data that deepened rather than resolved the mystery of this cosmic wanderer. Advanced spectroscopic analysis from the Atacama Large Millimeter Array revealed emission lines that defied conventional astronomical interpretation. The radio signatures suggested complex molecular structures that appeared to be organized in ways inconsistent with random chemical processes. Some researchers compared the patterns to industrial emissions or technological waste heat, though such interpretations pushed the boundaries of acceptable scientific speculation. The Vatican Observatory, with its unique position bridging scientific inquiry and spiritual contemplation, issued a carefully worded statement acknowledging the profound implications that would accompany confirmation of extraterrestrial intelligence. The statement emphasized that such a discovery would represent divine creativity expressing itself throughout the cosmos rather than challenging fundamental theological principles. This measured response from one of the world's oldest scientific institutions lent additional gravity to the unfolding situation. Meanwhile, in Panama, Kin Panama's documentation of his mysterious object entered what appeared to be a critical phase. His most recent videos showed the black substance exhibiting behaviors that seemed to transcend any known biological or chemical processes. The material now responded to human speech in ways that suggested not just sensitivity to sound vibrations, but actual comprehension of meaning and intent. In one particularly striking video, Kin Panama addressed the substance directly, asking it simple questions about its origin and purpose. The material's responses, while not linguistic in any conventional sense, showed patterns of movement and colour change that seemed deliberately communicative. When asked about its home, the substance formed configurations that resembled star patterns. When questioned about its intentions, it created shapes that appeared peaceful and exploratory rather than aggressive. These developments pushed even sympathetic observers toward disbelief. The progression from supposedly meteoric rock to apparently intelligent, communicative organism challenged every established understanding of biology, evolution, and the development of consciousness. Either Kin Panama was orchestrating an impossibly sophisticated performance, or he was documenting phenomena that would revolutionize human understanding of life and intelligence throughout the universe. The young man's emotional state reflected the enormous pressure of his situation. His videos showed increasing signs of exhaustion, stress, and isolation as he grappled with global attention and phenomena beyond his comprehension. He reported difficulty sleeping, persistent anxiety about the object's continued evolution, and frustration with the lack of official scientific investigation or support. Several prominent researchers had attempted to establish contact with Kin Panama to arrange proper scientific examination of the phenomenon, but communication proved difficult due to language barriers, geographical isolation, and the overwhelming volume of attention he was receiving. Offers of assistance and investigation came from legitimate academic institutions, documentary filmmakers, government agencies, and various individuals whose motivations were less clear. The absence of direct scientific examination became a central element of debates about the phenomenon's authenticity. Skeptics argued that genuine extraterrestrial biology would inevitably attract immediate and intensive scientific investigation, and that the lack of such attention proved the obvious fabricated nature of the claims. Believers countered that institutional skepticism and bureaucratic inertia often prevented proper investigation of genuinely anomalous phenomena. This debate reflected broader tensions about scientific authority, institutional responsibility, and the mechanisms by which new discoveries are validated and accepted. Traditional scientific validation requires controlled conditions, reproducible results, and peer review processes that can take months or years to complete. But Kin Panama's phenomenon, if genuine, was unique, uncontrolled, and unfolding in real time according to its own internal dynamics rather than experimental protocols. The challenges of validating extraordinary claims in the age of social media created unprecedented methodological problems for the scientific community. How do you maintain rigorous standards while remaining open to genuinely paradigm-shifting discoveries? How do you distinguish between sophisticated deception and phenomena that transcend current understanding? These questions had no clear answers, leaving institutions struggling to develop appropriate responses. As October approached its final week, the convergence of the ATLAS mystery and the Panama meteorite phenomenon created a unique form of global suspense. Two potentially extraordinary events were approaching simultaneous climax, creating an atmosphere of anticipation that transcended normal scientific or cultural interest. Millions of people around the world found themselves emotionally invested in outcomes that could fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The timing seemed almost too coincidental to accept as random chance. Atlas would disappear behind the sun just as Kin Panama's object appeared to be reaching some form of developmental climax. Baba Vanga's predictions about alien contact during major sporting events aligned with both phenomena potentially reaching resolution during fall and winter competition seasons. The convergence suggested either extraordinary coincidence or some form of coordinated revelation. Believers in connected phenomena pointed to this timing as evidence of intelligent orchestration, perhaps representing a carefully planned disclosure designed to minimize social disruption through gradual revelation rather than sudden dramatic contact. Skeptics dismissed such interpretations as pattern-seeking behavior applied to coincidental events, arguing that humans naturally perceive significance in random alignments of unrelated phenomena. The psychological and social impacts of prolonged uncertainty about these potentially extraordinary events became increasingly apparent as the crucial period approached. Mental health professionals reported unprecedented demand for counseling related to existential anxiety, cosmic perspectives, and identity crises triggered by the possibility of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence. The potential for such revelations forced individuals to reconsider fundamental assumptions about human uniqueness, terrestrial isolation, and species destiny. Educational institutions experienced similar challenges as students and faculty grappled with questions that had no definitive answers. Philosophy departments found themselves overwhelmed with enrollment as people sought frameworks for understanding potential contact with superior intelligence. Theology programs experienced both increased interest and significant challenges as traditional doctrines were examined in light of possible extraterrestrial realities. The economic implications of potential contact became subjects of serious analysis as the possibility of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence gained credibility. Financial markets showed increasing volatility related to space technology companies, defense contractors, and industries that might be disrupted by access to advanced alien technologies. Some analysts began developing economic models for post-contact scenarios, though such projections remained highly speculative given the unknown nature of potential alien intentions and capabilities. Government agencies worldwide intensified their planning for various contact scenarios, though most of this preparation remained classified to prevent public panic or international tensions. Defense departments updated threat assessments to include potential extraterrestrial technology, while space agencies considered how existing capabilities might be adapted for communication or protection purposes. Intelligence services monitored social media and public discourse to gauge population readiness for potential revelations. These official preparations reflected growing recognition that the Atlas phenomenon might represent genuine first contact rather than natural curiosity. The accumulating evidence for artificial origin had reached levels that required serious consideration by national security establishments, even if public acknowledgement remained cautious and qualified. The international dimensions of potential contact created additional complications for government planning. Which nations would have authority to speak for humanity in case of confirmed extraterrestrial communication? How would technological revelations be shared or controlled? What mechanisms existed for coordinating global responses to phenomena that transcended national boundaries and traditional diplomatic frameworks? The United Nations began quiet consultations about protocols for potential extraterrestrial contact, drawing on decades of theoretical planning that had never expected to become immediately relevant. The Office for Outer Space Affairs found itself thrust into a spotlight role as the potential coordinating body for humanity's response to confirmed alien intelligence. These institutional preparations occurred alongside grassroots organizing by various groups hoping to influence humanity's response to potential contact. Scientific organizations called for open sharing of any discoveries and peaceful approaches to communication. Religious groups emphasized spiritual dimensions of contact and the need for respectful engagement with potentially superior beings. Defense-oriented communities advocated for protective measures against unknown alien intentions and capabilities. The diversity of human responses to potential contact reflected the complexity of values, priorities, and worldviews that characterize human civilization. Unlike the unified species often depicted in science fiction, humanity approached the possibility of extraterrestrial contact with the same divisions, conflicts, and competing interests that define terrestrial politics and culture. This human diversity could prove either advantageous or problematic in contact scenarios. Different perspectives and approaches might increase the likelihood of finding effective communication methods or successful relationship models. Alternatively, internal human conflicts might prevent coherent responses to extraterrestrial intelligence or create opportunities for exploitation by superior alien capabilities. The ATLAS investigation had become a test case for humanity's ability to cooperate in face of cosmic-scale challenges. The international coordination required for the Mars flyby observations demonstrated impressive scientific collaboration across national and institutional boundaries. However, the interpretation and implications of those observations revealed significant disagreements about evidence standards, appropriate caution levels, and communication strategies. Dr. Loeb's team found themselves at the center of these debates as their analysis of the Mars flyby data approached completion. Their findings would likely influence not just scientific understanding of ATLAS, but global perceptions of extraterrestrial intelligence and appropriate responses to potential contact. The responsibility was enormous, and the implications extended far beyond normal academic research. The team's preliminary conclusions supported artificial origin for ATLAS, with confidence levels that exceeded typical scientific thresholds for accepting extraordinary claims. The combination of geometric structure, organized emissions, artificial chemical signatures, and coordinated temporal variations created a profile that was statistically incompatible with natural formation processes. While absolute certainty remained impossible without direct examination, the preponderance of evidence strongly favored technological rather than geological origin. These findings were carefully documented and subjected to multiple independent verification processes before being prepared for peer review and eventual publication. The team recognized that their conclusions would face intense scrutiny from skeptical colleagues and required evidence that exceeded normal scientific standards. Every aspect of their methodology was designed to withstand the most rigorous examination and criticism. Yet the evidence continued to support artificial origin despite every attempt to find natural explanations for the observed anomalies. Computer models of known physical processes could not reproduce the combination of characteristics displayed by ATLAS. Statistical analysis showed vanishingly small probabilities for natural occurrence of all observed features simultaneously. Independent research groups examining the same data reached similar conclusions through different analytical approaches. The convergence of multiple independent analyses toward the same extraordinary conclusion created a compelling case that transcended individual researcher bias or methodological limitations. The possibility that ATLAS represented genuine extraterrestrial technology was gaining credibility throughout the scientific community, even among researchers who had initially dismissed such interpretations as premature speculation. This shift in scientific opinion occurred gradually and cautiously, but its implications were becoming apparent to institutions and individuals who monitored academic discourse. If the scientific community was reaching consensus about artificial origin for ATLAS, the implications extended far beyond astronomy into virtually every aspect of human knowledge and activity. The timing of this emerging consensus added urgency to preparations for ATLAS's perihelion passage. If the object was indeed artificial, its behavior during the period of solar conjunction would likely provide definitive confirmation of technological capabilities. Maneuvers executed during this hidden phase could establish the object as an active probe rather than passive debris, transforming scientific curiosity into confirmed first contact. Dr. Loeb's calculations showed that relatively modest course corrections during perihelion could fundamentally alter ATLAS's trajectory from hyperbolic escape to bound solar orbit. Such changes would be impossible for natural objects but trivial for any technology capable of interstellar travel. The detection of orbital modifications would provide unambiguous proof of artificial origin and active control systems. The scenario was both thrilling and terrifying in its implications. Confirmation of active extraterrestrial technology within our solar system would answer humanity's fundamental questions about cosmic isolation, but it would also establish the presence of potentially superior intelligence with unknown intentions and capabilities. The opportunity for expanded knowledge and cosmic community would be balanced against existential risks from contact with advanced alien civilizations. These considerations extended beyond scientific discovery into questions of species survival and planetary security. If ATLAS represented reconnaissance for larger extraterrestrial presence, humanity might face imminent contact scenarios ranging from benevolent scientific exchange to potentially hostile evaluation or intervention. The absence of information about alien motives made it impossible to predict which scenarios might unfold. Government contingency planning increasingly focused on these possibilities as the perihelion passage approached. Military establishments developed response protocols for various alien contact scenarios, while diplomatic institutions prepared frameworks for potential interstellar communication. The plans remained highly classified, but their existence reflected official recognition that extraordinary events might require unprecedented responses. The secrecy surrounding government preparations created additional tensions within societies already strained by uncertainty about potential extraterrestrial contact. Conspiracy theorists interpreted official silence as evidence of cover-ups or secret knowledge about alien presence. Transparency advocates called for public disclosure of contingency planning to enable democratic participation in decisions that could affect all humanity. These debates about secrecy and disclosure reflected broader questions about governmental authority and public participation in matters of cosmic significance. Traditional democratic processes had never addressed questions about extraterrestrial contact, or the appropriate balance between security concerns and public information rights when dealing with potentially superior alien intelligence. The approaching climax of both the ATLAS investigation and the Panama meteorite phenomenon occurred against this backdrop of institutional uncertainty and social transformation. Humanity was approaching potential first contact without clear consensus about appropriate responses, institutional authorities, or decision-making processes for issues that transcended all previous historical experience. The global conversation about these challenges intensified as October drew to its close and ATLAS approached its crucial disappearance behind the sun. Social media platforms experienced unprecedented traffic as people shared theories, concerns, and hopes about potential revelations. The discussions ranged from technical analysis of propulsion physics to philosophical exploration of consciousness and interstellar ethics. Religious communities grappled with theological implications that extended far beyond their traditional areas of concern. Progressive denominations generally embraced the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence as evidence of divine creativity throughout the universe. Conservative groups struggled with doctrines that assumed human uniqueness in creation. Some fundamentalist communities interpreted the phenomena as signs of approaching apocalypse or spiritual warfare between cosmic forces. The Vatican's measured response to potential extraterrestrial contact influenced other major religious institutions to develop similarly thoughtful positions that acknowledged extraordinary possibilities while maintaining theological consistency. Islamic scholars noted Quranic passages that could support the existence of intelligent life throughout the universe. Buddhist and Hindu traditions found extraterrestrial intelligence generally consistent with concepts of multiple worlds and forms of consciousness. Indigenous spiritual traditions, with their emphasis on connections between earthly and cosmic phenomena, often proved most adaptable to the possibility of star visitors. Many native cosmologies included concepts of beings from the sky who had influenced human development or maintained ongoing relationships with terrestrial life. These perspectives provided alternative frameworks for understanding potential extraterrestrial contact that differed significantly from both scientific materialism and traditional Western religious concepts. The diversity of spiritual responses to potential contact reflected the complexity of human meaning-making systems and the challenges of integrating extraordinary revelations into existing belief structures. Unlike unified responses often depicted in science fiction, real human communities approached cosmic questions with the same theological diversity that characterized terrestrial religious experience. This spiritual diversity could prove crucial for successful adaptation to confirmed extraterrestrial contact. Different religious and philosophical traditions might offer various approaches to understanding alien intelligence and developing appropriate relationships. The multiplicity of human spiritual perspectives could increase resilience and adaptability in face of cosmic-scale challenges to traditional worldviews. Educational institutions found themselves at the forefront of preparing humanity for potential paradigm shifts that could accompany confirmed extraterrestrial contact. Universities developed rapid response curricula that could quickly integrate alien perspectives into existing academic disciplines. Primary and secondary schools grappled with student questions that had no definitive answers while preparing young people for a potentially transformed cosmic context. The generational differences in response to potential contact became increasingly apparent as older educational models struggled to address questions that transcended traditional subject boundaries. Students who'd grown up with digital connectivity and global awareness often adapted more easily to cosmic perspectives than educators trained in more terrestrial and isolated frameworks. These educational challenges reflected broader social transformations accompanying the possibility of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence. Traditional institutions and authorities found their expertise challenged by questions that no human had previously addressed. New forms of knowledge and analysis became relevant while established disciplines required fundamental reconceptualization. The approaching resolution of the ATLAS mystery would likely accelerate these transformations regardless of whether the object proved natural or artificial. Natural origin would demonstrate the existence of phenomena that challenged current understanding of interstellar processes and planetary system formation. Artificial origin would confirm extraterrestrial intelligence and potentially provide access to technologies and knowledge far exceeding human capabilities. Both outcomes would require significant adjustments in human understanding of cosmic processes and our species' place within them. The investigation of ATLAS had already expanded awareness of possibilities that existed beyond traditional terrestrial experience. Whatever revelations emerged from the object's perihelion passage would build upon this foundation of expanded consciousness about cosmic realities. As October 2025 approached its climactic final days, humanity found itself poised at what might prove a threshold moment in species history. The convergence of sophisticated astronomical investigation, viral social media phenomena, and ancient prophetic traditions had created unprecedented focus on questions about extraterrestrial intelligence and interstellar contact. The ATLAS investigation represented the culmination of centuries of scientific development and international cooperation focused on humanity's most fundamental questions about cosmic isolation. The Panama meteorite phenomenon demonstrated how digital communication could transform local events into global cultural moments that challenged established boundaries between entertainment, education, and revelation. Baba Vanga's predictions provided historical context suggesting that current events might fulfill patterns of prophecy and disclosure that stretched back decades or centuries. Whether these phenomena ultimately proved connected or coincidental, they had already transformed human consciousness about extraterrestrial possibilities and cosmic community. The universe had become a potentially populated and interactive environment, rather than empty void surrounding terrestrial isolation. Questions about intelligence, communication, and relationship had gained cosmic dimensions that transcended previous philosophical and scientific speculation. The imminent disappearance of ATLAS behind the Sun marked the beginning of a period that would likely provide definitive answers to questions that had gained unprecedented urgency and cultural significance. Whatever emerged when the object reappeared in December would either confirm the most extraordinary discovery in human history or resolve one of the most compelling cases of cosmic misidentification ever documented through scientific observation. In either case, the journey toward that resolution had already altered humanity's relationship with the universe and expanded awareness of possibilities that might exist among the distant stars. The questions raised by ATLAS's passage through our solar system would continue influencing human exploration, philosophy, and cultural development for generations to come, regardless of whether the object ultimately proved to be natural phenomenon or evidence of intelligence from beyond our world. As we reach the end of tonight's cosmic journey through the mysteries of 2025, we find ourselves standing at the threshold of what may be humanity's most extraordinary chapter yet to be written. The convergence of ATLAS, the Panama meteorite phenomenon, and Baba Vanga's ancient predictions has created a moment unlike any other in recorded human history, where science, prophecy, and viral culture intersect at the very question that has haunted our species since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. What we've explored tonight isn't just a collection of unusual events, but a transformation in human consciousness itself. Whether ATLAS ultimately proves to be the most exotic natural object ever discovered, or humanity's first confirmed encounter with extraterrestrial technology, its passage through our solar system has already changed us. We can no longer look at the space between stars as empty void. We know now that it teems with wanderers, visitors, and possibilities that stretch our imagination and challenge our most fundamental assumptions about cosmic community. The young man in Panama, regardless of whether his meteorite harbours genuine alien biology or represents the most creative viral phenomenon of our digital age, has shown us how quickly our world can transform when the extraordinary enters the ordinary. His story demonstrates that first contact, if it comes, might not arrive through official channels or dramatic announcements, but through the quiet documentation of impossible changes in someone's backyard, shared with the world through the most democratic communication tools in human history. And Baba Vanga's predictions remind us that human intuition about cosmic connection stretches back through generations of mystics and visionaries who glimpsed patterns in the universe that formal science had not yet developed tools to perceive. Whether her forecasts proved prophetic or coincidental, they've provided a framework for understanding current events as potentially fulfilling ancient human expectations about revelatory moments when Earth and sky converge in transformative ways. The questions raised by these interconnected mysteries will continue rippling through human culture long after tonight's exploration ends. The possibility that we are not alone has gained scientific credibility, cultural momentum, and prophetic context that transforms it from speculative fiction into immediate possibility, requiring practical consideration and emotional preparation. As ATLAS continues its hidden journey behind our sun, potentially preparing revelations that could emerge in the coming months, we're reminded that the universe operates on timeframes that dwarf human impatience. The answers we seek may come tomorrow or next century, but the asking itself has already changed us. We've become a species that seriously considers its place in a potentially populated galaxy, that prepares for contact with intelligence from distant stars, that integrates cosmic perspectives into daily consciousness. Tonight's journey through these remarkable phenomena has been more than entertainment or education. It's been preparation for a future that may include neighbours we've never imagined, technologies we can barely comprehend, and questions about existence, consciousness, and cosmic community that stretch far beyond anything our ancestors could have conceived. Whether you fall asleep tonight dreaming of geometric objects tumbling through interstellar space, mysterious substances evolving in Panamanian backyards, or ancient prophecies fulfilled through sporting event interruptions, you're participating in humanity's grandest adventure. We're all explorers on the edge of cosmic discovery, witnesses to phenomena that may mark 2025 as the year everything changed, or as another chapter in our eternal search for meaning among the stars. The universe has never seemed more mysterious, more populated with possibilities, or more ready to surprise us with revelations that could transform human destiny overnight. As we drift towards sleep, we carry with us the knowledge that tomorrow might bring confirmation of our deepest hopes or fears about cosmic community, interstellar intelligence, and humanity's role in a universe far stranger and more wonderful than we ever dared imagine. The sleepy scientist in each of us continues the watch, monitoring signals from space, analysing unusual phenomena, and maintaining readiness for the moment when the universe decides to reveal its most closely guarded secrets about who else might be out there, waiting among the distant stars, perhaps watching us with the same curiosity and wonder that we direct toward the cosmic mysteries surrounding us. Until that moment of revelation comes, we rest in the profound mystery of existence itself, grateful for consciousness that can contemplate the infinite, connection that spans continents through digital networks, an imagination that can embrace possibilities as vast as the universe itself. Sweet dreams, fellow cosmic travellers. The stars are watching, the mysteries continue, and tomorrow brings us one day closer to whatever extraordinary revelations await in our ongoing exploration of the greatest questions existence can pose. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the cosmic mysteries of 2025. If you enjoyed our exploration tonight, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our gentle investigations into the universe's most fascinating phenomena. Remember to share your location, your local time, and your strangest dreams in the comments below. Our community of cosmic explorers grows stronger with every voice that joins our late-night conversations about the profound mysteries that surround us. Until our paths cross again among the stars, this is your sleepy scientist, wishing you peaceful rest and dreams filled with the wonder of infinite possibilities. Good night, sleep tight, and remember that somewhere in the vast cosmos, amazing discoveries are waiting to be made.